Good morning, everyone. I'm L.Sashin, and welcome to the virtual breakfast sessions. Today, we've assembled an interesting group of people to discuss changing consumers' perceptions. You know, the alt meat is something that's delicious, tasty, but it's really not going to take off as an accepted product until we look at it as just another good food choice. So before we get going on this, I want to go around the room here and introduce our panel. Rocco, why don't you start?
Sure. Hi. Thank you for having me. I'm Rocco DeSpirito. I'm a chef and cookbook author. I've written several books on plant-based or mostly plant-based diets. I'm an advocate for healthy, sustainable lifestyles, and I'm happy to be here today and joining your esteemed panel. I look forward to our discussions.
Thank you, Rocco. Brian, you're up.
Yes, my name is Brian Endo. I'm co-founder and owner of Pig Minds Brewing Company in Machesney Park, Illinois, for about an hour, 28 hour and a half minutes northwest of Chicago. We opened up 10 years ago. My wife and I have been vegan for almost 30 years. So when we opened up 10 years ago, we opened up as the very first vegan brewery or brew pub in the country. I think there's probably a handful of them now. I know there's a couple out in LA area, and there's one in Milwaukee as well now. But yeah.
Okay.
I'm glad to be here with you guys.
Welcome, and we're glad you were able to make it. We have Gerard and Nolan. Why don't you introduce yourselves?
Well, I'm Gerard Berthelon. I work for Cuisine Solutions, the largest sous vide company in the world. I've been with the company 32 years, and most people know us for the sous vide egg bite at Starbucks, but we also do some plant-based Just and many other plant-based items. And Nolan?
Yep. Good morning, everybody. I'm Nolan Popper. Also work for Cuisine Solutions with Gerard, Director of Innovation and Plant-Based. Been spearheading the plant-based field within the sous vide category for about 3 years, and excited to talk to you and kind of bring the highlights of what we found and what we've studied on the plant-based forum. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for coming, guys. Peter.
Good morning, everyone. Glad to be here. Love the topic. Peter Herrero, founder and president of New York Hospitality Group. We are a 90-year-old restaurant with 3 catering divisions and, strangely enough, a semi-organic cafe in hospitals, which is a real eye-opener for hospitals to be asking to be that friendly, hospitable, organic, and healthy. It's a real refresher.
He doesn't look 90, does he?
Yeah.
Okay, Fred.
Good morning. I'm Fred Clashman. I'm the editor and publisher of Total Food Service. Can't wait to hear what this expert panel has to say. We all toured the plant-based show a couple of months ago and have lots of follow-up questions, and looking forward to a great session.
And Mike.
Morning, everyone. I'm Mike Council. I'm a business consultant, and I am partners with Larry and Bob Heiss in the Strategic Advisory Board. And I'm the co-host, so I'm monitoring things for that.
Remember, for those people who came in later, if you have a question, need a clarification, or just want to say something about our topic, please chat with Mike. If he finds this pertinent, he will wave at me and we will break into the conference and answer your question live. Okay, so we've gone through who everybody is. We know the topic. So why don't we address the 900-pound gorilla in the room? We all know that plant-based is healthy. We know that plant-based is good for the environment. We all know that it is low calorie. When was the first time you heard eat your vegetables? I mean, it was a long time ago. But there are these perceptions that A, it doesn't taste good. B, its texture is either stiff, mushy cardboard, or because of the processing, it's no healthier than a slice of bologna. So how are we going to get past this? How are we going to correct the misconceptions of the consumer so that plant-based becomes not alt anything, not substitute, just another good food choice? So Rocco, enlighten us with this.
Larry, I'm so glad you called on me, as if it wasn't planned at all. I'm happy to be talking about the importance of a plant-based diet and why the misconceptions about plant-based should be debunked. It's such a big topic. There's so many places to start, but let me just start with we've been eating plant-based foods since we were born. Our first foods were likely plant-based foods. And you know, you called it the 900-pound gorilla. Let's not forget, gorillas are plant-based also. So they know what's up. It's time for us to remind ourselves what's up as well. Evolutionarily speaking, plant-based foods have been the majority of our diet. Human species going back several 100,000 years have eaten a mostly plant-based diet. As a hunter and gatherer, most of your calories came from plant-based foods. Berries, plants, and meat was always a very small part of your diet, and that we call that the paleo diet now. And as a author of plant-based books, an advocate for plant-based, I can't say enough that let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. Sure, there might be some products out there that are less than what we hope for in the plant-based world. That's changing rapidly. There are new innovations in plant-based technology. And when I say plant-based technology, I laugh a little bit because, growing a tomato is also plant-based technology. And eating that tomato is living a plant-based diet. But because we have to do so many bad habits in many cases, when it comes to the American lifestyle and how we eat in this country, we often need to create these replacement foods, and those are very valuable tools in helping us undo some of the bad habits of eating too much meat and relying on highly processed, commercially farmed meat products that are not sustainable and contribute to climate change and do all the things we all know and have all talked about for years. The truth is, this is the direction we are headed in. Every market trend, every forecast you look at points to more and more plant-based food. I think we're up to about 30% of the United States identifying as flexitarian, about 48% of consumers looking for food and drinks that are identified as plant-based. So, we are at the future. What Larry and Michael and all of us used to talk about even 3 to 5 years ago as the future is here. So what do we do as we're arriving at the future and helping usher in this new era of a mostly plant-based diet? We have to continue to advocate for the good solutions, the best solutions, the okay solutions, because they're all better than keeping things the way they are, better than status quo. We know that eating a mostly animal protein-based diet is unsustainable, not good for the planet, has many disadvantages. We know we're going to, some people argue we're going to run out of, land to grow the grain that we use to feed all the animals. We know it's a highly inefficient system. 16 units of feed to produce 1 pound of meat. All these metrics that we talk about all the time. This chorus of metrics is just getting louder and louder and louder. So what we have to do is make this world more and more interesting. Do everything we can every day to continue to advocate, and most importantly, provide solutions, plant-based solutions that are delicious, that are healthy-ish, healthier, better for you, and they tend to be naturally, and just push right through the misconceptions about plant-based foods and a plant-based diet that we're not happy about. These misconceptions that you identified at the top of this call, Larry, are misconceptions that everyone on this panel and everyone listening today can easily change. It just,
I got it.
it's,
I got it. But
yeah,
let me just
yeah.
ask you a question. So we read this all the time. We read all about this all the time. We've always been told this is it, this is it, you know, but you go to a restaurant, you open up, and what are the plant-based options? Salad, roasted vegetables. If you're in an Italian restaurant, you can get eggplant parmesan without the cheese. You can, no, but here we have somebody here who has actually bucked the tide and created a venue that walks the walk. Brian,
Yes.
tell us about your impossible dream.
Well, like I mentioned to you guys earlier, my wife and I became vegan back in about 92, so it'd be 30 years this year. We had a dream of opening up some kind of little cafe. We're in Northern Illinois, though, kind of a blue collar area, and plant-based back then was not accepted at all. So I thought of ways that I could incorporate to try to attract people and introduce them more to plant-based. And I'm a big craft beer lover. I've traveled the country and go to cities that have craft breweries, you know, Portland, Seattle, Asheville, North Carolina, so forth. So when we thought a little bit more of open up a cafe, we kind of combined the two and put a brewery with it. So two of my passions I combined together. And I figured a vegan diet or a vegan restaurant would be a destination, and so are breweries. So in 2012, when we opened up the brewery, I didn't announce it was vegan at all, because I thought it would turn everyone off. We opened up, we had our menu out there. I mean, we had basic things, you know, pretzels, some barbecued sandwiches, you know, keeping it kind of low key. When we first introduced it, portobello mushroom sandwiches, things like that. This is 2012. First day we opened, all over social media, they're vegan, stay away, I'll never come there. It was very disappointing. People were discouraging me. Some people said, you have the worst business plan I've ever seen. I can't believe you're doing this. They didn't know my business plan, though. My background is in design. I own a design firm that I've had for 30 years that I had to back. The backing of it, I didn't have to take a paycheck from this thing, which was good. I bought every piece of equipment for the building with cash. I had just a mortgage to pay. So we get it up and going, and now 12 years later, last year we did a 9,000 square foot expansion to our original facility, and because we were busting at the seams. But it didn't happen overnight. The first 4 years, we struggled. I bet you 5% of our clientele were vegetarian or vegan, if that. So there was beer guys coming in and beer people. But then we started introducing them more, and we kind of kept tweaking the menu, trying to make things, taking it all to another level with the quality of the food and the variety. Last year we added our stone-fired pizza oven, so we added pizzas, everything 100% plant-based from day one. And today, I would bet over 40% or to 50% of our customers are vegetarian or vegan, or, you know, moving in that direction. But it didn't happen overnight.
But 60% are still flexitarian.
They
or,
are,
and
you know,
or will taste what you have. Is that correct?
exactly. And we have customers that came in from day one, and one guy, give you an example, he came in weekly. Never had eaten anything. I always talk to him. He goes, "No, I'm a meat guy." Well, one day, and he always sat at the same spot at the bar, so I recognize him. One day, I'm walking through the dining room, and he's sitting at a table. I didn't even recognize him because he's sitting there, and he's sitting there with a young lady. And he stops me and he goes, "Brian, this barbecue pork sandwich here. It's made with Butler soy curls. He said, "This is meat, right?" And I said, "No, it's not. It's 100% plant-based." And he said, "Oh my gosh, this is delicious." He said, I'll eat this again." It took him 6-7 years before he even tried anything. It had a young lady that brought him in and wanted to have lunch there that coaxed him into trying it.
What people will do for women,
But-
right?
Yes. But like I said, things didn't happen overnight. I mean, like Rocco made a lot of great points of, on how things are changing and what we need to do. And I think it is, we're catching up to it. It's still not going to happen overnight, but we're getting there. And I see it with my customers every day.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. You talked about getting people to try things. You go back to your youth. I remember my first vivid, impressions of vegetables when my mother used to open up a can of asparagus and then cook it for 20 minutes in boiling water. And it came out, with a consistency of overcooked spaghetti. And it was great. So, but then my father, who grew up on a farm, would cook vegetables and they would just be slightly cooked. They would be parboiled, or they'd be just really, really, just touched with the heat. And it was a whole different flavor. So it was my father that kept us in the game. And there have been so many advances on preparation, because that's really the name of the game. You take one product and one person can turn it to mush and another person can turn it into gold. And,
Yes,
go ahead.
I grew up with my parents overcooked every vegetable, and I hated vegetables as a child. When I got older, I would taste them more crisp, and you could taste the actual freshness of it, and that changed everything.
And with that in mind, I'd love to hear from Nolan and Gerard about what they've done. And I mean, they're really on the forefront of innovation with product.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear what they're doing to create product.
Yep.
First of all, product have to be delicious. And also in the past, vegetarian or vegan have been treated like a second-class customer in hotel and restaurant. And even the culinary school never focus on training chef or teaching them how important it is. I'm from France. If you look at the plate, the vegetable part is always a much bigger size and the protein is smaller. But for sure, sous vide, we've been able to keep the product more moist. You were talking about textures, what we've been trying for the last 4 or 5 years. And where we are today is a huge.
Can I stop you for a
difference.
second?
Yeah.
For those people who live in a closet and don't know what sous vide is, could you give them a brief description? Because to me, when I first saw it, I go, oh, another boiling bag. We should get our rice in boiling bags or things like that. Please explain.
So, we take a product, a protein, a vegetable, a sauce, we put it in vacuum pack, and we cook and pasteurize inside of the bag. So what do? We destroy all veggie from a bacteria, Listeria, Salmonella. We save about 15 to 20% of natural juice. And also because of time and temperature, we can control the color and the texture every single time. You go to a kitchen and smell great, but that's all the volatile who are flying away. Here, when we cook it sous vide, it's all sealed. If you want to learn more about a sous vide, you can buy the book from Thomas Keller on the pressure. And we have 3 pages on cuisine solution because before us, Thomas Keller never cooked sous vide. And I remember one meal I had with Rocco. I don't know if you might not remember, about 20 years ago, we came to his restaurant with Daniel Boulu and Antoine Westerman, and Rocco did a chicken for us, chicken sous vide, and he was one of the first one to be part of it. But myself, I've been cooking.
I remember, great day.
You remember that?
Yes, of course.
So 32 years, we have trained 48 3-star Michelin, many chefs.
Today, everybody recognizes that Sous Vide is a great way, a great tool to enhance the product and give a better experience to your customer. And that works even more with plant-based because we work with a lot of different suppliers. And if you take their product and cook it in a pan or cook it in the oven, they have just like you say, Larry, they have a tendency to be a little bit draining, drying out pretty fast. But with Sous Vide, we can cook it in a broth, bring even more flavor to it. And I think, Nolan, you can talk about that.
Yeah.
Because you've been doing so many tests.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to go back to Larry, maybe your first question that you proposed is how are we changing people's minds? And luckily here at Cuisine Solutions, we're able to feed millions of people, not only here in the US and Canada, but around the world. So our platform is really big to start to turn the page and help people understand those sensory characteristics that we normally think are terrible when it comes to plant-based are really fantastic. And I think Brian touched on it a little bit. What we do here is we have, a category of products that are fully plant-based and vegan. It's probably about 50 items. And since it's my directive to go in and produce these products, I don't tell people they're plant-based, right? You don't tell them that they're plant-based till after they try it, because there's this whole total misconception, as you were alluding to, that flavor, texture, aroma, appearance just aren't up to par with the standard product. So what we do for our vegan chili, for our vegan bolognese, or our Szechuan ginger vegan chicken that we do in a bao bun, we just put it in front of them. We listen to their feedback saying, wow, this is an absolutely delicious product. We love it. Well, here's the sustainability message behind this, where you're cutting off 85% of what it would take to produce the chicken for the water, right? And at the same time, it's fully vegan, right? All those cholesterols that are in your standard eggs when we're producing our vegan eggs are not in it, right? And then you start to see the gears turning. And I think it takes one person at a time to take that message, and then word of mouth will really translate from person to person. And they'll come back and say, did you try that vegan chicken from Cuisine Solutions? Did you try that vegan sous vide egg bite from Cuisine Solutions? Oh, wow, I can buy that in a retail store. Well, there you go. You're changing one person, one family, one household at a time. And that's not only happening here in the US, but our team in Thailand is doing the same thing. Our team in France is doing the same thing. So that plant-based message is really starting to go around the world at this time. And again, the products that we're putting out can really change a whole person's thought process when it comes to plant-based.
Thank you. It's I guess in 2019, Fred called me up one day and said, what are you doing tomorrow? And I said, nothing. He goes, we're going to the Jacob Javits Center. We're going to the inaugural Plant-Based World Expo. And he picked me up, we drove in, and I'm just sort of like, yeah, God, I gotta eat, I gotta taste this stuff. And we went around and things actually, if you closed your eyes, you'd think you were eating food. You're talking about, I do eat vegetables, I do that, but as a main course, eggplant parmesan was as far as I went. But I tasted things. And, 2 years later, we're walking around the second time, and, I go up to Rocco and he says, where do you taste this? And he makes me a chicken parmesan Kindle sandwich. And he said, taste this. And I tasted it. And I, besides tasting it, the thing that it actually tasted like chicken, the thing that got me was I bit it, and it felt different when I bit into it. It didn't taste like compressed tofu. And I looked at it, and it actually shredded at the end as if I was biting a chicken cutlet. And Rocco said to me, that's not unintentional. And I think going around that room, tasting different things in the room, everybody is moving in the correct direction. And I think that, this market is in flux, and this market is growing, and it just needs that push to get out. Now, I have my friend Peter Herrero here, who has the New York Hospitality Group, and you talk about a company in flux right now. Peter is going through mass renovations in his main building. And he is not only changing his environment, but he's also changing his target audience. And, you know, if you, 2 months ago, if you went into Sam's of Gedney Way, most people look like me there. Most people look like me. And, you know, Peter, you know, in his inimitable way, told me, you know, people like you are going to die soon. And I can't live.
No.
I can't live with you. I can't live with that kind of thing. And I have to get younger audiences. And the truth of the matter is, he's right. He has this beautiful restaurant that turns out wonderful foods, and his menu has got to change to draw the younger audience. Peter.
Good morning. Good morning. Do you know what? I don't know if I use those words, Larry, but I will say that after 90 years being here, I realized that I guess it was creep. We just kept going closer and closer to finer foods, what is in our heart and our passion. And our catering companies, the Great American Barbecue Company and the Everyday Healthy Cafe, really took on the more casual food. But we realized about 5-6 years ago, we were losing our multi-generational appeal. We went white tablecloth in the last 15 years. So we've added an outdoor indoor space, but it's amazing. And I love the way the panelists are giving the narrative and framing the healthy cooking. It's all about taste, but it's funny. Can I be gluten-free? Can I have a vegetable pizza, the cauliflower pizza and flour that's so popular today? People don't even know they're eating a vegetable. It's amazing. And that's the magic behind it. But it's great that the multicultural, multi-generational families, the kids and the young adults are teaching the adults how to properly eat vegetables. And I love it. A bunch of the speakers have said it, how our parents, and God bless them, listen, we survived our parents' upbringing, which I love, cooked the bejesus out of vegetables. They just, here's your vegetables, eat it. That's what I remember. Yeah, but I want the hamburger, the meatloaf, or whatever it was. I'm not so crazy about the vegetables. Today, vegetables are great appetizers. They're becoming, as Rocco said before, they're becoming bigger and bigger on the plate of America's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Even wheat, oatmeal. Who would have had oatmeal 20 or 30 years ago? One of our number one products at the Everyday Healthy Cafe is overnight oats with fruit on top. And people are really kind of protein crazed. So we're fortunate that we have the younger generation coming in. We're taking care of it with to-go, but it's amazing how our kids and our kids are teaching us how to eat better. And it's exciting, but I do truly believe it's all about taste. How many of our customers have turned around? And I love the expression, this is too good to be a vegetable. No, but I do applaud Beyond Beef and so many meat alternatives that are out there, though I may not completely understand it, but there's money and excitement. There's chefs getting behind the vegetables. Because the biggest problem is, and I'm not picking on Chinese food, but vegetables are great, noodles are great, but Americans, we really need, when we pay for dinner, we want to be full. So I really think it's a combination of making our vegetables sexier and somehow making them fuller without having to eat two pounds of vegetables.
Okay, that's great. Stop right there. Brian.
Yes.
Okay. So you hear Peter's dilemma. You
Yes.
hear his question. Just think, what do you call your foods?
Well, that's a great question, because I was just thinking on, was out at the bar earlier, about a week or so ago. Early in the shift, we had just opened and we had a regular sitting there. And my chef come out and he brought out a Hearts of Palm crab cake that he just made up. that we were going to have for like a weekend special. And he said, "Here, you want to try this?" And the customer is going, "What is that there?" And he says, "Crab cake." And the customer goes, "Oh my gosh, crab cake. Why do you call it a crab cake? I mean, why? It's not a crab cake. What's it made of?" I said, "Hearts of palm." He goes, "What's that?" But I said, where are we supposed to start with this? You know, you got to have a starting point. Otherwise, people aren't going to understand what the flavors are or the texture. Or, I mean, what are you going to do? Put on Hearts of Palm cake? I mean, they have to associate it with something. Like a burger, obviously vegan chili. You still, or chicken sandwiches, you know, it's the chicken patties aren't made of chicken, but we call them chicken because they mimic something. And the misconception is that vegans don't want anything to do with meat or have any passion for it. Well, we all loved the flavor of it when we had it as children. We grew up with it, but we changed because of either our diet, the environment, animals, reasons like that. We still love the flavor. So that's, you know, they don't understand that. And that's what you have to try to convey to them and get it across to them.
So I have a question for Rocco and Nolan, which is, in order for this to be successful, do we have to mimic existing flavors and existing textures, or can we create something that's new? Do we need to create something that's new?
Go ahead, Chef.
So for me, you know, as we keep talking about this, that's something that I'm extremely passionate about. Is I understand that the impossibles are giving you that same look, but I don't believe that's the future, right? I believe we're developing totally new textures and consumers are going to be okay with that. Right now, to get people hooked on plant-based, yes, we need to say vegan style chicken, vegan style beef, vegan style pulled pork. And I'm okay with that right now. But as we continue to grow in this plant-based forum, I don't believe that people are going to be looking for the chicken. The flavor and the texture and these new unique characteristics of it will totally take over. And that's going to be what consumers are looking for. Delicious, healthy, nutritious food, plain and simple. But I understand there's different steps. There's an arc to getting people there. And I'm very respectful of that arc to get there, right? Especially my parents. I walk them through it, right? One small step at a time. How can we do, you know, flexitarian 2 days a week? And that's okay, right? And if you want to have that texture and that flavor of a grilled chicken breast, sure, we can do that for you. But what's next and how do we bring them along on that arc? I think it's absolutely where we're going to go. But when we develop new products, we think about something like that as a 5-year goal, right? That's a 5-year goal to start to change people. And each 6 months, we're saying, okay, what are we doing to get closer to that goal?
I agree with Nolan 100% on that. He hit it right on the head. I hope that that's exactly how it goes.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think with every transformation or change in the habits, there's a process, and you typically start with the lowest hanging fruit and the easiest obstacles to overcome. So creating meat replacements, or as you call it, alt meat, Larry, I think are an easy way to get people to give it a try. And we know that there are companies out there now who are well-funded, doing great research, who are accomplishing that. And you know, I'm a fan of many of them and less of a fan of some of them. But I think what they've done is a very important step in the right direction. They've introduced plant-based food to tens of millions of people who would not have tried it otherwise. And that and progress, not perfection, is absolutely important. We have to make progress and not always shoot for perfection on our first try. We will get there. What my hope is that we ultimately end up to what I refer to as the Mediterranean diet pattern, where 50% of your calories come from fruits and vegetables. You know, it's sort of what's old is what's new. But I also think at the same time, chefs like Nolan and other innovators will be out there creating exciting new flavors, new textures that will just make it more and more tempting to dip your toe into the plant-based world.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you know,
and
it's interesting that back in '76, before most of you were born, back in '76, I moved to Norwalk, Connecticut, and I was driving down the road in Norwalk, and I see this restaurant. Out in front of it is an old college buddy of mine. And I pull over the car and I talk to my buddy Vinny Labazetta over at the Lime Restaurant, and he tells me he left Wall Street. He opened this restaurant up, and it is vegan friendly restaurant. He did cook some meat, but everything was based in vegan. And he says, "Come on in, I want you to taste something." And we sit down and we're talking, and the waitress brings out this thing that looks like a hamburger. And this was what Vinny called on his menu, the veggie nut burger. And the veggie nut burger, I bit into it, and this thing was delicious. Now, I knew it wasn't meat, but I knew it was good. And then Vinny comes out and shows me the letters from Bon Appetit magazine asking him for the recipe. And his answer was no. And to this day, I don't think he gave that recipe to them. But he's still selling veggie nut burgers over there, and he still packs to his tiny restaurant with people coming to buy those things. So it's not so much that you've got to do all this, all that. You got to make something good. You have to make something good, get somebody to notice. He was written
So
up.
my other question to
Go ahead.
Peter Herrero in particular is, where do and Rocco, that's great to be able to serve fruits and vegetables, but can you create an ROI and build a business unless you're focused on the center of the plate and the ability to get that $20 to $30 for an entree? Where does the money get generated from this new menu in order to support this new approach?
Peter.
I'd love to hear from Rocco on that one. That's a tough one.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a tough one. I think we're all grappling with how to do that. I think some of our plant-based meats, the plant-based chickens of the world, the Beyonds and Impossibles of the world, the Tyndalls of the world are helping us get there, because what they're creating and what they've innovated are what we would consider center of the plate products, which are now selling for more than their meat-based counterparts. So we've established that there are plant-based alternatives to meat. We've established that they're center of the plate worthy, and we have proven that people are willing to pay more for those, not necessarily bringing more money to the bottom line because they tend to cost more. But I think as we scale up, those costs will come down. I mean, I know that Impossible and Beyond are less expensive in aggregate, shipping and production issues aside, than they used to be when they first started. I know that a company I'm working with, Tyndall, is already experiencing economies of scale and their prices going down as they continue to innovate and scale up production. So I think we're headed in the right direction. We're certainly not there yet. What do you think, Peter?
I'm with you. We're having great success at breakfast and lunch. We really are struggling on the catering side and on the restaurant side for the main dish. I'm paying $150 for a wedding, a bar mitzvah, plus. Fred, you're right on it. When it's the center of the plate, I'm paying $35, $40 for an entree, vegetables, and I'm still hungry. So we're having great luck on breakfast and lunch. And you're right, Rocco, the amount of TLC and skill it takes to take a cauliflower, a butternut squash, cut it in half, to Brian's point, make it look like a steak. And people look at you, that's not a steak, but it looks like a steak. It's meaty like a steak. We're struggling, Fred. We really are with that center of the plate. We're much closer than we have. And Nolan had a good point. I don't know if it's, and I'm not picking on Beyond Burger and I'm not picking on the Vegetable Council, but there are many roads in this journey to, karma or to the promised land. We're struggling. We really are struggling with the price point. Higher end white tablecloth restaurants, let's be honest, the chefs are still, and it kills me. We used to have a white tablecloth restaurant. Chef walks in with his coat. There's the chef. I walk by. There's Peter. If the chef touches it and has a story to it and tells the story of the farmer, Rocco, it's different. When the operator does it, it's different. You really, I hate to say it, there has to be a long story and a good sale, and it's a hand to hand, like a nice bottle of wine.
Yeah, but the truth of the matter, Fred, correct me if I'm wrong. What is the restaurant in Manhattan that's doing a pre-feed dinner for like $200 a head, all vegan?
11 Madison Park.
11 Madison Park. 11
Yes,
Madison
yes,
Park.
they've gone
So they're
vegan and-
managing to
yeah.
do it. They're
Well,
managing to do it. It's preparation.
the
They're a
1%.
unicorn, though. I wouldn't use them as the example,
Yes.
but they've certainly done it. There's no question about it.
Right,
They've
Peter,
been very brave.
1%. They're the
Yes.
1%.
But Russell Jackson in Harlem is doing the same thing with his California style cooking, which is mostly, vegetable based with some fish and other things added into it. But I think, it can be, if we go under the idea that it's hard to do and can't be done, it won't be done. If, there are many ways to prepare, Gerard, how do we
I'm
make
going to give you
that
an
dig?
example of moving forward. We talk about even Madison, Dan Barber, everything. Like you said, it's sort of made we're launching with Chick-fil-A, a qualified cook in Buffalo, and it's going to either be grilled or fried, and that's they're plant-based. They're launching end of March, and we're working some with other chain. I think we have to touch the base. That's where the volume is. We're selling our vegan chili. We've been doing a vegan chili for 5 years to the military, and the young 18 to 24, they want their 5,000 calories. They want to eat. They want their big steak and stuff like that, and it's a big seller. And why? Because it's delicious, and we work with our supplier because the protein we used to use was, or he wanted to sell us, was too soft, and we had to work with him. And now when you take the chili, and always we ask them, said, just taste the protein, the meat, and it tastes exactly like a hamburger, you will do it. So we have to, go through the basic. And when people find it at Chick-fil-A, when they're going to find it on some chain and they start to eat it and it's delicious, that's how we're going to grow the business on plant-based.
Mhm. It's to me, and I'm not a restaurateur, so you guys know all the numbers and stuff like that, but it's more a issue of mindset, design, and presentation and sales. You've got to sell yourself first.
Well,
So once
and
you-
it's also, the other thing we're missing in here is what's the attitude of Cisco US Foods towards moving towards this? Because unless the bulk of product is going to be able to be moved, then it's not going to happen. So that's another key piece of this.
Mhm.
Love to get your thoughts on that.
I believe that they're catching on to it. I've seen them.
Okay.
We have some of those representatives come in, and they want to get a piece of it. So I think they're seeing it. That does help push it too, and I think they're pushing it into and trying to influence some of the just regular restaurants that don't have anything. At least try to get an Impossible Burger or something on their menu, to have an option.
One second, Mike, you raised your hand? Mike?
Yes, I did. So we're getting some comments from folks in the audience, and one in particular, this is from Christine Dowd. She says, when restaurants offers more vegan options, it will bring a larger group to the table. Now the vegan or vegetarian has an option for a full meal. Having more mainstream restaurants integrate real vegan options can make this happen and break down a divide.
Okay. All right, go ahead, Peter. Peter, you're weighing this.
Is it, yeah, and I speak to the restaurateurs and the manufacturers. Is it the egg or is it the chicken? Which came first?
Yeah.
I hate to say it. The numbers are the numbers. When we take a look at our numbers at the end of the month, what's selling? I love the vegan. I usually eat vegan here or breakfast at home because it's so good here compared to, honestly, my home. I cook, but not that much. Which comes first though? Is it, you have to almost, to Larry's point, you almost have to be known as a vegan restaurant, and then you're in the 1%, and we don't want to, as restaurateurs, what we stand for is restaurateur. It's to refresh, to respite, We have to be open to everybody. But when you look at the numbers and you're not selling a lot of vegan dishes, you don't keep putting them on. And I do apologize. I just want to take one step back. I will tell you, our Cisco reps and their district, they really are getting on board. They are turning much more into a delivery and marketing and kind of vessel. So they'll sell anything because they're making money now by the box, not by the pound.
But do you
Which is
have to drive it or
interesting.
do they drive it?
Both. To the point that I just made, the egg or the chicken, they're there. They're introducing products, but left and right, and I looked at my other panelists, they are bringing them on. They're there. Do we sell them? We keep it, we add more on. If they don't sell it within 90 to 120 days, the product is gone.
Okay. You know, 1 second, Mike, you're here again?
I'm here again. Just to add, just to add to Peter, there's a comment from Alan in the audience as well. Is basically talking about social media. And in fact, Alan says that he's in a group with 10,000 members, a vegan Facebook group, and it's exactly how he found this virtual breakfast session today. So, you know, to Peter, you know, the question or the point here is that it's a, you know, we're starting from the ground up. And it's folks like you that basically can use social media to talk about this, to bring them to your restaurant, et cetera. So I just wanted to add that from folks in the audience.
You know,
Yeah, and
good.
I believe like guys like Rocco too. I mean, that's what he's got an influence. There's people look up to and follow people that have you know, a celebrity type of profile. I'm seeing more and more like Gordon Ramsay is adding things to his menus that is published. And I think that really, these kind of people like Rocco and that can really help to influence people, or at least to have them take a second look at things when they sit down at a menu and see a vegan option.
Okay. You know, it's interesting. Peter, you do something in your restaurant that to me would be a perfect introduction for certain vegan foods. Many times, almost always when I go to your restaurant, there's always this little shot glass of something that comes out of the kitchen. Shot glass is something that comes out of either it's, you know, today's soup, or it's a little taste of this, a little taste of that. What would stop you? You know, there was a program on that a while ago, a contest. It was Anthony Bourdain show. It was about the perfect spoon of food. The perfect spoon of food. What would stop a restaurant from offering that shot glass or the perfect spoon of food, a vegan option, just to test it? Now, I am sure that if you wanted to test something, you can reach out to your distributor and he would supply you enough to do that test, because he gives you a little and you order a lot. And, you know, this is something that's overlooked. You know, the distributors are there to help you sell. You know, they're just not there to sell you. They're here to help you sell. And if you don't take advantage of a distributor who, you know, I've come up with a recipe. I want to test it with my customers. Can you help me out? I guarantee you the answer will be yes. And you'll get more than you need to do that. So, you know, tell everybody about your little shot glass of this and your perfect spoons that come out.
Well, it's funny you say that. Usually you were different when you stop by. We have it's a soup sipper. Our chef, he's sexy, okay? But we do it in an espresso cup without a spoon. So if your dinner is late or there was a problem and everybody else is eating, or it wasn't to your liking, it's a soup sipper in an espresso cup. It's a butternut squash soup, or it's a gazpacho. It is it's our way of sneaking in vegetables to you. And I said, you know, don't worry, it's only 2 or 3 sips. Your dinner will be right out. Or it's our way of saying, Rocco, great seeing you. Thank you for visiting our restaurant. You know, Gerard, we love your products. You stopped by the restaurant. It's our way of, it's a greeting. It's a complimentary greeting. We do it with dessert too. and it's always vegan. I will tell you, because people are surprised. I don't know. Just try it. It's a soup sipper. You know, it's sexy. Don't worry, you look good eating it. And then they look at you and say, "That's vegetarian. That's really good." You want to laugh? A third of the time, if we do it as they arrive, as a welcoming gesture, I'd say a third of the time they order the butternut squash or the gazpacho. Gazpacho soup is a lost art and is a lost soup in my eyes. It's phenomenal. I feel like I get all my vegetables for the week in one gazpacho soup. Add a little vodka and it's an American Bloody Mary.
It's vegan.
It's vegan. What I agree with you though, and I'd love to hear from the other panelists, what that welcoming gesture or that I'm sorry, a gracious thank you, a gracious hello. We do it, and you're right, I didn't even think about it, but I show off our culinary team's talents by saying it. Shh, don't tell your kids, it's actually vegan.
Yeah.
And they laugh.
I think, Peter, people like delicious, as everyone has said on the panel. Delicious always wins, and we all know we can make delicious vegan food. I think part of what Christina is asking us to do as restaurateurs is to be the influencers that help change the behavior. And restaurateurs, operators, chefs, and everybody in the business do have a tremendous influence on dining habits. If you look over at the last 15, 20 years, at what chefs and restaurateurs have brought from other countries, from other cultures, and put on the menu, and that are now commonly found on many menus, most menus. There's a yuzu flavored Snapple. Gerard, when you came to Union Pacific 20 years ago, yuzu was something we had to smuggle in the briefcases of Japanese businessmen. Now there's a yuzu flavored Snapple, and you can buy yuzu juice everywhere. So we do have that kind of power. We can change behavior. People do look up to us in the restaurant industry for guidance. So to Christina's point, the more vegan or plant-based options you offer, the more popular you are to a mixed crowd. And her point of every time they go out to dinner, which is in the chat box, by the way, that's what I'm responding to. There's always someone who needs plant-based options. They automatically disqualify restaurants that don't offer enough. Is something that all of us in the restaurant business really need to take seriously. I know from personal experience, from just having worked on a 100-year-old West Village pub that was famous for its burgers, adding a plant-based burger became its number 2 seller after its smash burger. Things are changing rapidly, and we have to meet that demand and help create the new demand. So a lot of it is up to us, and we know the benefits, whether it's sustainability or health or the 100 other benefits, and we can help change the marketplace.
Yes, I think I know what one of our future virtual breakfast sessions is going to be. It's going to be a continuation of this, because this has been a great conversation, and time is always our enemy when it comes to these things, and we're coming near a close. So all of you, what I'd like you to do is just give each person a takeaway, some thought that they should have stuck in their mind that A, will answer some questions, and B, make them want to come back for the next one. So Brian, why don't you start?
Oh, geez, Larry.
No pressure, Brian. No pressure. The world is listening to you.
Yeah. No, I think people just, we discuss greatly here on flavor. People have to just give that a try. It's something that, we all work on, people in the restaurant industry, when it comes, especially in the vegan thing, is trying it. And I think that's what we just have to keep things creative, things that are going to be flavorful, and keep them in front of people's faces and give them the opportunity. And I like the idea of giving samples out, that it's, so
That's it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Gerard.
Well, I think people have love power, and if when they go to the hotel or when they write to their airline, wherever they're going, or they're taking a cruise, we're working with all those large companies, and the last couple of years they've all been asking what kind of plant-based vegetarian option do you have? And it's more complicated for them. They have to change, they have to retrain their staff instead of cooking a chicken, so forth. But they are doing it right now. I mean, we're shipping sample to everybody because everybody's reopening the cruise, the banqueting. They're all revisiting their menus to simplify it, and they are all asking. And they're not asking just to be nice because they're getting pressure from their customer. And we all have to ask for the option. Whoever is listening today, whenever they ask, a little note, hey, I'm coming for a banquet, I'm coming, why don't I have more option on when I take my flight? And if we all do that, we'll get there faster than slower.
Okay.
Nolan?
Yeah.
Nolan.
Larry, I wish we had more time because I think we're surrounded on this panel by amazing restaurateurs and chefs, but we haven't really talked about how we're impacting the home consumer and how people can start eating more plant-based at home, right? A lot of my foundations were built on the meal that I had sitting around the table with my family. Yes, you do that in restaurants, but how many times are you actually at home versus in the restaurant? And I think there's a misconception on how to cook these plant-based. We know chicken 165, and we can list those off, but people get confused on how to cook plant-based options and what temperatures they have to cook and what's the optimal, right? So when it comes to sous vide, we've done all that work for you. We're giving you ready to eat options. You open up the bag, don't worry about the food safety. We've taken care of that. And I think we had another hour to talk. There's a whole different division that we can go into about home consumers and how we can really help train them on the plant-based front and what needs to be done to start impacting it at the home level.
Well, Nolan, we're here every 2 weeks, so there's plenty of hours to come. Rocco.
I'm gonna quote one of my favorite overused phrases. Fortune favors the bold, right? We are in a position of influence in the restaurant industry. Chefs, restaurateurs, people who write menus for a living. We have the ability to change habits. We should respect respect and honor that privilege and that power, and we should continue to advocate for what we know is better for ourselves, for our customers, for our planet. And while we always have to keep the bottom line in mind, there are times where we do have to push forward, even though it may not be easy to check every single box on the pro forma. It's a responsibility feeding people, and sometimes our responsibility is difficult. Sometimes we have to make choices that are not as popular or not as bottom line friendly, but are the right choices. But having said that, there's no question that as the vegetable and plant-based market becomes a $200 billion industry, this is becoming the right decision more and more and more.
Thank you, Rocco. Peter.
So true, Rocco. It's funny, we were doing a little research last night and we were at a speakeasy, and I was talking with the chef and we looked at each other and said, we love this business, don't we? We are blessed, all of us, to love this business. But does the business love us back? And the reason I say that is, but this is a way for our business to love us back. And the tough part is going vegetarian, mainstream, putting protein in that vegetarian, because that's what people are going out, they're looking for the nutrition. I would say there's so many ways in the appetizers, in the salads, I'm working on the dessert side. The fruit is easy on the dessert side, but Rocco, you hit it right on the side. This is our way of making a mark and making a difference by making people healthy. And when especially, I just love the soup sipper, when you're giving something complimentary, because we're happy that the place is full, packed, or whatever it may be, pre-2019, to not just let people relax and refresh, but truly to nurture them and to make them healthy is huge. So I wish everybody a great journey on this vegetarian or healthy path, let's call it.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Fred?
Great session, guys. I mean, I think what's fascinating is we're in the middle of a massive wave of inflation right now. So where do these products fit from a cost standpoint? And then there's no question in my mind after going to that show with you, Larry, the latest show, and tasting some of the things that Gerard and Rocco are doing, the product's there, it's great. So now it's a question of getting it onto menus and getting people to sample it. And I love Nolan's idea about, let's start by getting people to look at trying it at home,
Yep.
et cetera. I think it's a big piece of it.
Okay, thank you, Fred. Mike?
I'm not sure I can add much to everything what everyone has said. I think it's been a terrific session. I've learned a lot. And I hope that some of you have seen, or hope all of you have seen some of the comments in the chat box. Some of them are really quite good. And Larry, I want to thank you for doing this, and I hope we do it again with the same cast of characters.
We will. It's up to them if they want to come back, but they will be invited. Just to wrap everything up, you know, it's very important that we do what that we say we're going to do. We want to serve people. We want people to come back, to be happy, to be healthy, and be around us. That's one of the reasons why we're in food service. We like giving, and it is a giving thing. And I Brian said, he built slowly. He built his mini empire slowly, and it was swimming upstream. And I could just go back to 1969, 1970, when I was going to college, and I worked for a sandwich shop, this small sandwich shop on Park Avenue in Bridgeport, Connecticut. And here's a guy who had an idea. He knew everybody was having fun with certain products that were really illegal. And he made a sandwich, and he cut the bread differently so that when people bit it, all the meat wouldn't fall out all over them. And it was called Pete Subs. And we made these sandwiches, and there was a constant stream in Pete Subs. And he had a sign out in front that was I guess it was a play on John Lennon's song. He said, "All we are saying is give Pete's a chance." Pete's a chance. Okay. And it was a catchy thing, and the sandwich was good. And let's come to today. Pete's Subs is now Subway.
Wow.
Is Subway. Pete Subs is Subway. And he had a concept, he had an idea, and it was good. And here we see something good. And he reached out to people to come in, taste, try, reasonably priced, and they did. And look where it is today. So these people you're seeing here are the tip of the iceberg. And in the coming weeks, we want to show you more of that iceberg so that we can help you grow. And like I said, selling vegans these products is preaching to the choir. We're looking for the carnivores and the flexitarians. And all we are saying is give it a chance. Give it a chance. And that's your job, to have people do that. So in closing, I hope to see you again in 2 weeks. I want to thank everybody here for coming, both panel and audience. And only 2 things left to say. Stay positive, test negative. See you in 2 weeks.
Amen. Thanks, guys.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you,
Take care.
everybody.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye-bye now.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Great time, guys. Thank you.